Hello everyone, did you see that apple crisp? I'm going to show you how to make that. You're going to need 6 to 8 apples, either Granny Smith or Golden Delicious. We're using flour, sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, salted butter, brown sugar, and a cast iron skillet. You ready? Let's get started. In my bowl, I have cleaned and washed my apples. I've peeled them and I'm going to go on and cut them up. And I'm going to be cutting the apples up the same size and dimension that you would if you're making an apple pie. Next, I'm going to go on and put in our sugar. I'm using a half a cup of granulated sugar that I've added to our apples. Also, if your apples are on the larger side, you can go on and use 6 apples versus 8. Today I'm using 8. And then I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of flour. And what that flour is going to do is actually going to help to kind of thicken up our juice. Next, I went on and I put in a teaspoon of cinnamon, and I'm adding in a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Okay, now once I have my ingredients, all my spices in the bowl, I'm going to go on and give things a good stir. And when you're mixing your sugar and that tablespoon of flour, the cinnamon, the nutmeg, you want to make sure that all the apples get coated thoroughly. And so that's why I'm going down deep in my bowl. I'm really moving my apples around. I'm going all the way around the bowl because I want to make sure that there's no clumps of cinnamon or spices on like maybe just 1 or 2 apples. So that's important. Okay. Now, next I'm going to go on and put some butter in my cast iron skillet. What I'm going to do is my butter's nice and soft. It's been left out at room temperature for a few hours now, and I'm only using 1 tablespoon. And I don't know if I mentioned it before. I think I did, but I'm using salted butter. And so I'm going to be really, really generous with the butter, and I'm going all the way around. All the way around. I'm making sure I go all the way to the top. I'm getting in all of the edges and the center and the full bottom of the cast iron skillet. Okay, so now with my apple mixture, I'm going to go in and I'm going to go on and pour all the apples into my pan. And I'm going to make sure I don't leave out any sugar. I'm not leaving any spices left over in the bowl at all, any flour. I'm making sure that I get it all in. And now what you want to do is you want to go through and kind of pat down your apples. And the reason being is because you want to have an even layer. You want to have an even layer, and you want also the apples to kind of go from edge to edge in your skillet. Okay, so once I've gotten that all taken care of, next I'm going to go on and I'm going to do our crisp topping. Now for our crisp topping, we're going to need 1 cup of flour, and again it's all-purpose flour, so I'm going to use 1 cup of flour. And I'm also going to be using the brown sugar now. And so the brown sugar is part of the crisp topping, and so I'm using a half a cup of light brown sugar. And with the half a cup of light brown sugar, I actually am using a 1/4 cup measure, because for me it's actually easier to go into the bag with that 1/4 cup measure. And you see how I'm pressing the sides of the bag to even out and to compact that brown sugar. And so it's actually easier to have a 1/4 measure to do that. But the measurement in the bowl is a half a cup of the brown sugar. Next, the rest of that softened butter, I'm going to use the rest of the stick of that softened butter. I'm going to use half of it. So half of that softened butter, and remember that is a 1/4 cup of softened butter that I'm putting into the bowl with the flour and the light brown sugar, and I'm going to mix thoroughly. And what you want to do with this step is you want to coat your flour. You want to coat the brown sugar. You want to mix everything together thoroughly, but you also want to coat it because when the flour is hydrated with the butter, it is going to cook. You won't have a floury taste in your crisp, and it will also crisp up. And hey guys, if you're new here to my channel and you've just stopped by for the first time, or maybe you're a returner and you haven't subscribed yet, go on and hit that subscribe button. And if you like what you're seeing so far, go on and give this video a thumbs up. I have great content for cooking, baking, tips and techniques that I cannot wait to share with all of you. Now we have our apple mixture and we have our crumb mixture. I'm going to go on and use my 4th cup measuring, and I'm going to evenly put the crumb mixture all over the top of our apples. I want to make sure that I'm getting the sides. I'm making sure that I'm getting it in the middle, and I want to really coat the mixture. I want to coat the apples with the mixture from end to end. And that's very important. And also, you do not want to press down on your crumb mixture. You don't want to flatten it out. You want to keep like some dimension to it. And so I just want to make sure that I have all the apples coated, but you don't want to go through and like press down on it. You don't want to do that, okay, at this step. Now, for whatever reason, if you don't have a cast iron skillet like I have here, if you have a ceramic baking dish, you can use that in substitute of using the cast iron skillet, and it'll work just fine. All right. So we'll put our crisp in the oven and at 375 for 30 to 35 minutes. And this is the result. Look at that. Our apple crisp has browned nicely. It is nice, hot, bubbly. This is such a great dessert. Let's go on and serve us up some, okay? You could hear, you guys cannot hear this, but if you could just hear that crunch of that topping, oh, and smell the aromas of that cinnamon and that nutmeg. The apples are so nice and tender. This is just such a great dessert, especially if you are not, guys, if you are not really good at making pie crust. I'm going to show you how to make some pie crust in my future videos. But if you are not good at making pie crust, this is a great apple recipe to have, a great dessert to have for your family, for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. It is wonderful. That looks so good. And like I said, if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button and give this a thumbs up. And I thank you so much for stopping by when Devon is cooking for the family. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.